Homeschool Reading Community. Welcome to this Wednesday Facebook Live. Today we're going to be talking all about morning routines. We're going to be talking about why you might need one, why you might want one, and how to get started with one, and how to set it up. So I'm really excited about this topic. I was actually planning on coming live and talking about something different today, but then I saw a great post in the group from Melanie just asking about morning routines and how to get one started. So I want to make sure that I share that information. So this is a really great topic to be talking about today because my family is in the process of creating a new morning routine right now. So we start our homeschool year the first week of August, and we create a routine for our homeschool, starting a little bit at a time and adding to it each week throughout the month of August, so that by the time we get to September, we have our full morning routine in place. And this is something I have done for a couple of years now because it helps me as a teacher to be able to kind of start slowly with our subjects and to really focus on making homeschool fun and on setting up a great routine and handling any behavior challenges that come up as they come up. So it gives me space to be able to stop what we're doing and to be able to give those little lessons about different behaviors or different parts of the routine throughout the morning without feeling like we're getting behind on the lesson plan. And this is also great for my kids because it gives them a chance to ease back into the routine and to build this routine over time rather than going from the super relaxed summer schedule where not a lot was happening that was planned to the more regimented school year routine. They don't have to do that all at once. It's a gradual transition for them and it works much better. So I'm really excited to share about that with you today. So today we're going to talk about morning routines, and this is in response to that post that was in the group yesterday or the day before asking if you have a morning routine, because I realized that I asked if you had one, but I didn't really talk about why you might want one or how to start one. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And the first thing I want to talk about is sort of the why of morning routines, why you might want to have one, because you've probably heard that saying that kids thrive on routine, but why is that? Is it really true? And the reality is that I do think that it is for a couple of reasons. First of all, when kids have a routine, they know what to expect. And this is really important, especially for kids that are younger and can't tell time yet, or maybe can't read yet, because it's going to be harder for them to be able to figure out what's happening as a part of their day when they can't read a clock. And so, or when they don't know what to expect. So I know that for me, I always feel better about my life when I'm a little bit in control of my own schedule. And you can let me know in the comments if you can relate to that as well. So I know that I always prefer to know what's coming and to have some say or some control over what that is. So the days when things are going completely sideways and all of a sudden I'm doing all these things that I didn't know I was going to be doing, sometimes that's an exciting surprise, but often that's really frustrating. And our kids can feel the same way when their schedule is unpredictable and out of their control, even if the things that we are doing are good things. Another reason why a schedule is really helpful is because with that consistency that comes from a schedule, it will often reduce or eliminate the fighting that can happen about what we're doing right now. So when our kids start to expect that after breakfast we always brush our teeth, then it eliminates the fights over do I have to brush my teeth or not, right? But if sometimes they have to brush their teeth and sometimes they don't, or sometimes we don't enforce it, then it starts to become a game of, well, is today a day where I'm going to have to brush my teeth or not? And if it's not, then, maybe if I whine and complain about it a whole bunch, then, my parent will just give up and I won't have to do that, right? And that can be the same with any routine that we're trying to start with our kids. So the more that we can be really super consistent with these things and have these routines really strong and well established with our kids, the less fighting that will happen and the more our kids will just automatically go and do what we want them to do because they know that right after breakfast, that's what we go and do. So they're really, really valuable in our homeschool. And if you do not have strong, consistent routines for your kids, I would definitely recommend starting these things. Routines over things like teaching our kids to read are super important because anytime you're teaching a skill like reading where kids need to practice it on a regular basis, you really want to automate it as part of your routine. So your routine can include not only school stuff like specific lessons or specific subjects or whatever it is that you're teaching your kids, but it can also include life stuff like chores or getting dressed or whatever your family does. And the routine is going to look different for each family. There are some families that let their kids wear their pajamas for homeschool and some that ask their kids to get dressed. Different families are going to have different chores to do for their kids and different things that their kids are learning. So, of course, everybody's routine is going to look different. But the way that you create a routine is the same. And so I want to talk about that. So, one thing that you can do that really, really helps with creating a routine is you can make some sort of a list or a visual schedule for your kids to reference. So, of course, if your kids are readers, just making a list of here's the things that we do can be really helpful for them. And this can be a schedule that has times on it, but I would actually recommend that you maybe try not doing that because even just an order of like, okay, first we're going to wake up, then we're going to make our bed, then we're going to get dressed, then we're going to eat breakfast, then we're going to do school, then we're going to do chores, then we're going to go outside. I mean, if you have sort of a list or an order of things that happen, that can add in just a little bit of flexibility so that if your kids sleep in a little bit late or are up a little bit early, it doesn't throw off the whole schedule. Or if you get distracted in the middle with a phone call and need to delay something by 10 minutes, you're not going to be off for the rest of the morning. So having that order can be really helpful and probably enough. You probably don't need the actual times. So you want to make some sort of a document or something that you can reference and that your kids can reference. If your kids are too young to be able to read the list, you can also do a visual schedule. So here's what that looks like. Either you draw a picture of each thing that your kid is doing, or even more fun, use your phone and take a picture of your kid doing each of the things. So one day you're going to do the schedule and you're going to have them be the model. So you'll have them wake up. You'll have them make their bed, and while they're making their bed, you'll take a picture of them making their bed. And then while they're eating breakfast, you'll take a picture of them eating breakfast. And then when you make your schedule, right next to make bed, you put a picture of your kid making their bed. So that way they can see what's happening and they can look at the pictures in order to be able to tell what's going to happen next on their schedule. So those kinds of things can really help. The other thing that can be really helpful when you're making a morning routine is to start slowly. So this is what we're doing at my house right now with homeschool because we started our homeschool year last week. And we're going to be starting with just a little bit. We started with a few subjects last week. We added a couple more this week, and we're going to be adding things each week until probably in sometime in September, we'll get the full schedule down. And I did that for the same reason, because I want us to focus on building this routine and making the routine strong. So we started with just a few subjects at the beginning, and then we're going to add more. And you can do the same thing with your morning routine as you're creating it. So think about the order that you want things to happen in your routine and start with just the first one or the first two. And then once those things become routine, become automatic, so give it maybe a week or so at least, then you can add something else. And the cool thing is that once the beginning of your routine starts to become automatic, you can use that as the trigger to let your kids know that it's time to do the next part. So this is actually an idea from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, which is a fantastic book. But you're just making a trigger for the next thing to happen. So for example, if you eat breakfast every morning, then right after breakfast is a great time to add a new habit as a part of your morning routine. Because you're probably not going to forget to make breakfast, right? Your kids are hungry every morning, and if you for some reason forget to make breakfast, if you get busy or distracted or whatever, they'll eventually remind you because they're hungry, right? I sometimes joke with my kids about this when they're really hungry for a meal and they're whining about it. I'll say, ever in your however many years of life have we ever forgotten to eat breakfast? And they'll say, no. And I'll say, okay, so are we going to have breakfast today? Yes. And so, I mean, we joke about it, but it makes breakfast a really good trigger for doing something else. So then after breakfast is done, then you're going to add in that very next habit. And maybe for a week or so, you work on just that breakfast plus one more thing. So right after breakfast, we're going to go make our bed. And so every day you really work on right after breakfast, go and make your bed. And then once that is in place and that's really solidified, then you can add another step to the end of that. And over time, you'll build this strong morning routine. So if you do not have a morning routine, or if you're looking to recreate one, that's what I would recommend, is to start with one thing that already happens automatically, like breakfast, and then add one more thing right after it. And then once that's solidified for a week, then do the next step. So we're doing that in our homeschool too. The way that our homeschool is going to work this year is that we're going to do some family time during breakfast. I have several different family subjects that we're going to learn together as a whole group. We're going to do Bible study, we're going to do music or art, we're going to do some history reading, and I'm going to do a read aloud. And those things are going to happen while my kids are eating breakfast. So that was our first week of our morning routine. We did those 4 things every morning during breakfast. That was it. And then when breakfast was done, my kids were free to go off and do their day as normal as they would have the rest of the summer. And then this week, we added in the second part of our day, which is going to be me working one-on-one with my daughter on her reading, because reading is really, really important. And so we wanted to do that right away when she's fresh. So we'll do that right after breakfast. She's going to do her reading and her math and just a little bit of pre-handwriting kind of stuff with me. And while she's doing those things, my son, who's older, is going to be working on a computer-based homeschool program. So that was our lesson this week, was how to, for my daughter, introducing those new subjects, and then for my son, how to work on that program independently without me. And so we also had a really great opportunity to have a lesson this week about what to do when mom isn't available and you have a question. So my son and I had a chance to brainstorm some ideas about that this week when it came up, and he has a really great list to work from and had a chance to practice it. So that is the kind of stuff that we're doing with the extra time that we have, because we're not doing our full homeschool day. So if you are just getting started with homeschooling or with a morning routine, that's what I would do. So if you have questions about homeschooling, about morning routines, go ahead and drop those in the comments, and I would be happy to answer those. And if you are watching the replay, you are also welcome to drop your question in the comments as well, and I will be back in the group throughout the week to answer those as well. The next time that I'm live in the group, I will be back to talk about what is happening with my daughter, who I'm teaching to read right now. And I'm super excited to see just what's happening with her. We've been working with her with the Reading Better Together curriculum for a while now. And it's just exciting to see the progress that she's making. And so I wanted to do a quick behind the scenes and show you some of that. And so I'm going to do that the next time that I go live here in the group. But I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. And again, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments, and I will talk to you soon. All right, bye everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video, which was recorded live in the Homeschool Reading Community Group. This is a free Facebook group where I share tips and advice about homeschooling and teaching reading. You'll also find community with other homeschool moms like you, plus freebies, giveaways, parties, and more. I would love for you to join us over at the Homeschool Reading Community. Make sure that you check out the link in the description of this video for all the details.